Franklin Roosevelt was briefed. Eisenhower,
Yes.
Adamski briefed Eisenhower by taking him to the air base in California, in which one of these craft landed.
Yes.
And then several years later, with Kennedy in '62 and the Attorney General Bobby, they did the same thing, and the California does it to a different base. And so they had first-hand briefing, and as time went on, less and less of this occurred. By the time we got to Nixon, he had only partial access.
Why is that?
Because it was determined that the secrecy of maintaining the UFO secrecy had to be classified at a level which there were very little access to. We have this illusion that in this democracy of ours, the president is running the country, and he's not.
Yeah.
I mean, not by a long shot. And so, as time went on, it was determined by the institutions that hold this material that these political figures were not to be trusted to be given any information, because they are all too willing to trade it for votes or promise of votes or anything else. I mean, how many, Carter, who had his own sighting when he was in a nuclear submarine.
And asked to be briefed in on it.
And asked to be briefed, and he was disavowed. And the promise that was made by Clinton and the promise that was made by Hillary Clinton, all these people, they are trying to promise you something in order to gain votes, but they do not have access to it themselves. It's way past their level. And so we have run into this block. And
So-
why is that block?
Okay, so we're going back to 1969. Is that when the Condon Report came out?
Yeah,
So
on
this
Inauguration Day of
Okay.
Richard Nixon
there
on
you
purpose.
go, Richard Nixon. Okay, to be buried. So you hire some stooges to put out a report. Nothing to it, right? Basically, nothing to it. And there you go. Now it's publicly dead in the water.
Well, the Condon Report was a vehicle here of the University of Colorado, all right? And if you look at the quotations from the inner memos, which are available, it states that the research is to be done specifically by non-believers.
Yes.
And so they have basically set up the scientific experiment to be totally biased in an opposite direction. It's like saying, well, we're going to make Oswald the patsy, and we will only take the information that we can.
That justifies that.
That justifies that, even though the amount of information that was contrary was a whole library full, and they had just simply ignored it. And so the Condon Report was designated to use the same psychological method. And this is basically Psychology 101. This is how we have learned to control the masses.